Hi, class. I realize that this is weird that your teacher who's standing in front of you just pressed play on a video in which your teacher is talking to you. However, sometimes this is the easiest way to show you, instead of standing in front of the computer, that we can just watch the video together while you play on your own computer and try these same techniques. So, what we are going to be working on is the idea of reading strategies, that whether it's an article or a short story, that we want to make sure that we are using our strategies to make sure that we understand what we're reading. So, accessing it from our slideshow, there's two things that we're really going to work on today. Number one, we're going to make sure that before we get into the article, we use that strategy of accessing prior knowledge. Number two, because we're working on a computer and there's not a piece of paper in front of you, what we are going to be working on are these four highlighter colors, looking for these items and using our comments box in order to annotate or to explain why we've highlighted those. The third thing that we're going to practice is a strategy for identifying the main idea, in that we can collate all of those highlights so that we can start looking at what it was that we highlighted and the parts that we wanted to categorize. So let's get into it. Number one, when we look at our article, we want to see if we can access prior knowledge. So nature's nurture. I know in several of my courses that we have studied the idea of the scientific debate of nature versus nurture. Nature is the idea of genetics, or the biological factors that influence and shape typically humans, and nurture is the way that our environment shapes who we are. So I'm wondering if it's about nature and nurture. But once I read just one sentence into this article, that I start to realize that we're going to be talking about nature, as in the outdoors. So when I think about accessing prior knowledge, what I'm thinking about is my understanding of nature around me and my access to it. And I can go down several different paths in exploring that. But what I really want to focus on today is using Google Read and Write. In order to use it effectively, the understanding is that we already have it downloaded onto our Chrome browser. Every time I log in under my profile, I have a list of extensions and apps that are attached to my profile. Google Read and Write is one of those. When I activate Google Read and Write, I'll see a little tab right here, is that I want to access the features and factors that make Google a little bit more accessible. When you click on, I clicked here first and that little tab showed up, and it can go up and down. If I want to get rid of that feature, I can just hide it or bring it down. In here, we have a number of different features. For example, if I am really struggling to read this, maybe my focus is low, maybe there's a lot going on, and I would really like to listen today, that Google Read and Write actually has a feature that you can have it read to you. So that's one feature that I want to outline for you. You have to highlight it, or you can even just put your cursor at the beginning, press play, and it will do that for you. The other thing that Google Read and Write has is a definition and a dictionary feature in two different ways. Number one, there is a dictionary in which I can highlight the word and the definition shows up right here. Okay, so remembering when we're looking at articles, and some of our reading strategies are identifying words that are really important to us. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you as I go through here. New words and definitions is my first highlighter color. And I think we all know what this word is, but I'm just going to show you for the purposes of this video. I'm going to highlight all uncertain words in yellow. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this definition that I found at the top, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to make a comment. Once I highlight a word, these two little features will pop up right here. And I'm going to make a comment with that definition so that if I go back to this article, that I know what that definition is. You can always highlight it again. However, I have a little comment here that if I was to click on here, my comment box opens up, so that if I want to remember what that word is all about, I can do that. Okay, so there's highlight number 1 and using the comment box. That's really what we want to do. As we're reading through, we're stopping, we're slowing down, and we're thinking about making meaning of all of this text. So let's review. If we find an uncertain word that we don't know what it is, we highlight it, then what do? We can go up here and we can either look at it as a picture. Sometimes they can come up with them. What we're really looking for is the definition. Once I have the definition, what's the next step that I want to do? Absolutely, we want to put it in the comment box. But before I get there, what's one thing I haven't done yet? I haven't highlighted it as the color of an uncertain word to me. So I want to make sure I do that so that the highlights stay there. So I'm going to copy this and we're going to put it in that comment. Okay, so these are the steps that you want to make sure you're going through when you're highlighting. So the next step, in addition to new words as I'm reading through, the other thing I want to be looking for is the main idea. The other thing is that I have read this article at least once before I go back and do all of these concepts. So I can know that as I'm reading through, I can highlight those new words on my first read through, but I may not be able to identify the main idea on my first run through. Maybe I have to read it all together first to really come back to where the main idea is located. So because I've read it several times, I located the main idea a little bit further down. I'm going to highlight the main idea in green. And I'm going to highlight that. I clicked it first. There we go. And I'm going to click over here, main idea. In my comments, I'm going to say that let's reword this. Decreases the ability to reduce stress, insomnia. Maybe that's a word we can look up right after this. Energy. And therapeutic, meaning mental well-being. Mental and physical well-being. And even though I've highlighted in green, I'm going to come right back here and I'm going to look at, we'll say we'll highlight this word right here. And I had my unknown words in yellow. And I can look at that word. And even though it's within it, what I could do is add on to here that therapeutic, a definition. So I'm going to go over here, therapeutic, and I'm going to click dictionary, and there's my definition. So you can even reply to it, Control C, Control V. And now I've got two parts in there. I've got the main idea and I've got a definition. And you can see the differences in the highlighting that I can still see that this was a word that I needed to look up. The other thing that you can do is as you're going through, so now that I know the main idea is that getting outside can actually increase your mental and physical well-being. So what I want to do is as I'm going through, I want to find parts of the details that are supporting that. So I'm going to go through this entire article and I'm going to highlight those in the next color. I'm not sure what you would call that color, but there it is. Okay, so here's the key thing that I really, really like. is that in Google Classroom, not Google Classroom, I apologize, in Google Read and Write, that we can highlight and make meaning of all of these by using the highlighters, but also by using the comments. Sometimes when I'm going through, if there's an aha moment, something that's really interesting to me, that would be my other. So just as an example, I'm a big animal lover, so I'm going to highlight this in this color. And that it doesn't have to be a definition, or it doesn't have to be the main idea. What it could be is that I like seeing wildlife in its natural habitat. Ooh. Sometimes it's just a comment as to like something that stood out to me, something that was interesting, and I can make those comments over there. Last but not least, one of the things that I really, really like about this whole Google Read and Write is this little feature right here. So say, for example, I want you to do a summary paragraph on this article, which we're going to practice a little bit later on, but I just want you to be able to see how to do this. Is that now that I've highlighted it, what this particular little feature does is it takes all of those and puts it into a Google Doc for me. So it takes it out of the article and creates a brand new document where all I have are those highlighted points. And there they are too. So what I would see here, it's categorizing it into the colors that I've put in there. These would be all my terms that I didn't know. You'll notice it doesn't have the comments. Here is the main idea. Here would be all of my supportive details. And then here, just some of my aha moments with a link back to that article and the account that it came from. How great is that, that you can take all of that information, summarize it right down, and if you need to make a summary paragraph or answer some of those questions, that here you have all of that information. So that's your quick tutorial. Let's start practicing and figure out how we can use Google Read and Write to annotate and make meaning of this text.